February 9th, 1972, Paul McCartney and his new band Wings set off to do their first ever gigs, what would become known as the almost mythical University Tour. Now, there's so much confusion surrounding one of the dates that there's even a venue that genuinely believes that they hosted one of these gigs, but they didn't. And I'm out today to show what really happened. This was pretty much unlike any other shows that any major rock star had ever done before. They didn't book any gigs, they didn't even book any accommodation. The band, their wives, their kids, their pets and a couple of roadies just got in a van and headed north up the M1. The idea being that they were going to stop in university towns and just ask if they could play a gig that night, 50p on the door, and while they were in town they'd find somewhere to stay overnight. So you've probably all heard the story of them going up north, and Paul saw a sign for Ashby de la Zouch in Leicestershire, and he thought it was such a fantastic sounding name he decided that that's where he wanted to do the first gig. But that's just a small town, there's of course no university there, so they headed up to Nottingham instead, and on that day, the 9th of February, they did their first show in Nottingham. The next morning they headed up to Leeds, where I am now, with the idea of going to Leeds University and doing the same thing that night. But the press had got ahead of them at this point, and Paul didn't really want any fuss on this tour, so he immediately decided to cancel ideas for this show, and instead they went off to York, about 25 miles east down the road, and played at the Goodrich College dining room instead that night. Over the next few days, the band played in Hull, Newcastle and Lancaster. The Hull gig was particularly interesting because of an incident that happened afterwards. I'm just going to read you a short passage from this brilliant book, Man on the Run, Paul McCartney in the 1970s by Tom Doyle. And it says that there was an altercation between McCartney and the landlord of the place where they were staying. The landlord came down and saw what a mess that the band had made. McCartney happened to walk into the room at breakfast time as the landlord was proudly telling off the roadies. An argument broke out and Paul, accidentally on purpose, according to Denny Lane, elbowed the proprietor in the room. Now, the landlord threatened to call the police, and young Heather, Paul and Linda's daughter, had to go around the room waking up the roadies so that they could all leave the building pretty quickly. So it was incident packed, but Paul remembered that he wanted to play in Leeds, so he arranged a gig for the following week, the 16th of February, for the band to return to Leeds and play that gig of the university tour. There's a big poster in the wall in the Refectory building in Leeds Uni that shows Paul McCartney, and it's captioned as being the 16th of February 1972 university gig. I'm going to go and find that now, and I'm going to point out a problem with that. So I've got to go and find the uni building now. I've never really been there before, but I think it's over in that direction there, so I'm going to go and have a wander over there. Beautiful spring day, and I'm going to find the Refectory in the University of Leeds campus. This is the Refectory behind me. This is the building where The Who played in 1970, and their Live at Leeds album was recorded in that building there. And Paul McCartney and Wings did play in there, but they did not play there during the university tour, despite what many books and many publications say, including the university themselves. I'm going to show you this photograph here. This is Paul McCartney on stage at the Refectory, and the caption says that it's on the 16th of February 1972 during the university tour, but it wasn't. That photograph was taken, yes, at the Refectory, but the following year on the 1973 tour when they were touring Red Rose Speedway. So why is there this confusion? Well, first of all, I'm going to go to where the band actually did play on the university tour. Let's head over to Leeds Town Hall. So I'm heading away from the university now, and we're just walking past the impressive looking Leeds Civic Hall, and then in the distance you can see there, looking like something from the opening of the Yellow Submarine film, that's Leeds Town Hall in the distance. That is where we're heading to. Just as you go past the Civic Hall, you head into Millennium Square, this nice open plan area of Leeds, and I remember this well, 2001, when Nelson Mandela came to unveil this newly laid out square. But yeah, we're still heading towards the town hall. Behind me is Leeds Town Hall, and this is where on the 16th of February 1972 Paul did his rearranged gig with Wings. He decided to go for somewhere a bit bigger, and this is where they played. Now, there aren't too many stories that have come out of the university tour, but one of the more famous ones is how when the band started playing Wildlife one night, that Linda just completely forgot how to play it on keyboard. She would start with her keyboard part but just couldn't remember it at all. So Paul came across and he decided to show how to play it And then he couldn't remember either. And eventually it took quite a while before the band could start playing the song. Now, there are conflicting reports that I've never quite managed to get to the bottom of where that happened. But one of the suggestions is that happened here at Leeds Town Hall on the 16th of February. Some accounts say that it happened in Newcastle. I've never been able to quite pinpoint which is true, but it could well be that happened in this building behind me. So when it came time to plan the 1973 tour, Paul remembered that he'd wanted to play Leeds Uni but hadn't been able to. So they then booked a concert for the 1973 tour at this venue, and that is when they played in the Refectory, not 1972. I just took a chance and tried to get in to see if I could film. They've said because there's a COVID testing centre in there, they won't let me in at the moment. But they said if I come back tomorrow morning before the testing starts, I can go in and have a look around. So I'm going to have to actually come back tomorrow and film some more of this. Cut to tomorrow. I'm back again, it's the day after. You can tell it's a lot cloudier today. So I'm just going to go back into the refectory and see whether, as promised, they will let me in to have a look around the stage area. And I'm in. This is it. This is the stage behind me. So this is where Paul McCartney and Wings played on May the 19th, 1973. So they've not been able to play here during the university tour. So Paul arranged on the next tour, which was to promote Red Rose Speedway, he arranged a gig here. So yeah, this is the stage. I'll just show you around. It's all a little bit of a mess at the moment because they're using this as behind me as a COVID vaccine centre, so there's all sorts of stuff here, but they were really good at letting me in to have a look around. When Paul played here, they were supported on that tour by a band called Brinsley Schwartz, featuring Nick Lowe, who some of you will know. They were a pub rock band that Linda had seen play at the Hard Rock Cafe and really liked them, so they booked them for the tour. And also they had a magician supporting them as well on the tour. Now, there's a lady in the USA called Doyle Nova, and she's been absolutely brilliant in helping me get some information really about this gig, because she was here. She came to the UK in 1973 on holiday with a family and got tickets to see Paul and Wings, and she saw them at the Leeds gig. Now she knows that it's 1973. She's even got me a copy of her ticket for the gig. The fact that there's a ticket for the uni gig proves that it wasn't on the university tour. But yeah, she came and I showed her pictures of this venue from other gigs that exist, like Leonard Cohen and various other things, and she recognised it immediately as where she'd been. So I can't thank Doyle, if you're watching this, can't thank you enough for your help in sort of proving that it was definitely 1973 when they played here. So what do Leeds Uni themselves say about this? So this is kind of the crux of the matter here. It says on this poster, Paul McCartney at the microphone as Wings play the Refectory in 1972. Well, we've got some problems with this. So that is not a photograph of 1972 Paul. If we have a look, you can see the hair is very different to other photographs taken on the 72 tour. This is much more when he grew his amazing mullet in 73 around the My Love era. The clothes are more flamboyant. That just isn't 1972. That was definitely 1973 tour. Now, I've actually spoken to Steve Riding, who took that photograph and worked for the Yorkshire Evening Post. He's confirmed that it was here, but there's no way that photograph was taken in 1972. I'm up on the balcony now, looking down at the view that people would have had in 1973 of Paul and Wings. And of course, let's not also forget that this stage in the Refectory is also where The Who played in 1970, and it was recorded for the legendary The Who Live at Leeds album. That was done right here as well. They've even got a blue plaque outside the Refectory entrance that commemorates it. So why all the confusion? Well, I think that probably what happened was that people remembered Paul McCartney playing Leeds in the early 1970s. They remembered him playing the Refectory, and then once the legend of the university tour grew, they probably just put two and two together and thought, Paul McCartney, Leeds Uni, university tour, that must be when it happened. To put it in a nutshell, they came to try and play at Leeds University on the 1972 university tour. The press got ahead of them, cancelled the gig, came back a week later and played at the Town Hall, and then the following year on their Red Rose Speedway tour, then they arranged to finally come and play at the Refectory at the University of Leeds. Hopefully in future places will get this right. Like I say, some have, some haven't, but that is the story of what actually happened back then. I hope you found it interesting, a little tour of the city that I live as well along the way, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.